We all know that the Berlin Wall that divided Europe came down more than 3 decades ago. But did you know this wall is now being replaced by a road that could be just as damaging? The New Silk Road, which is also known as China's Belt and Road Initiative. Would you be surprised if I told you 18 out of the 27 members of the European Union have already joined the initiative? That's right, 2/3 of EU members are part of Communist China's influence and infrastructure project. With cooperation from Hungary in particular, China is bringing something unprecedented to Europe, which, if it succeeds, will change the fabric of this land forever. So what is China doing in Hungary? Does Hungary's government fully comprehend the implications of working with China? I'm Sharon, and this is Straight Talk. More than 3 decades ago, Hungary made the first tear in the Iron Curtain with the seemingly innocuous pan-European picnic. The country was once a proud example of what Europeans could achieve when they stood up for their freedom. But under the current Orban administration, it seems as though Hungary has veered off this path and strayed into the arms of China's communist regime. In 2017, Prime Minister Orban signed up for China's Belt and Road Initiative. If you've been watching my channel, you will be quite familiar with this initiative by now. It involves China building massive infrastructure projects along a small number of critical trade routes, while in the process lending huge amounts of money to the governments involved. But what's the catch? There has to be a catch when it comes to easy money, right? These infrastructure projects are typically located in developing countries or struggling democracies, where such mega projects are often both commercially nonsensical and an invitation for corruption. Many of the countries involved later discovered that they have become trapped in a debt spiral, with this realization typically coming when a new government takes over. What is the goal of China's debt trapping these countries? One is to be able to exercise more leverage over such nations. In addition, in the case of a country defaulting, China can take control of the critical assets or land the host nation has put forward as collateral. This is how China has managed to take control of Sri Lanka's Hambantota port for the next 99 years. No wonder China's Belt and Road Initiative is now known as China's debt trap diplomacy. I call it the Debt Road Initiative because it is ultimately a road to a mountain of debt. The Hungarian government hopes to become a hub on some of the trade routes China is working on. It envisions huge volumes of goods passing through the country from China, bringing an influx of Chinese investments. But to Beijing, the appeal for Hungary is far greater than providing markets for China's massive overproduction. What do they really want? We can find clues in some of the things Beijing has managed to achieve thanks to its friendly relations with Budapest. The Hungarian authorities allowed the Chinese technology company Huawei to set up a research center in Budapest last year, despite warnings from the United States over serious security concerns. Huawei has close links to China's military. Between April and May, Hungary twice voted down the EU's motion to take a harder line against Beijing's poor human rights record in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. The Chinese government is now pushing a big project in Hungary's capital city of Budapest. How would you feel if I asked, would you be willing to send your kids to a European-based Chinese university controlled by the Chinese Communist Party? This is exactly what is happening in Budapest, the construction of the first ever European campus for a Chinese university, Fudan University. The Budapest campus is expected to be operational by 2024. Some people will probably say, so what? Lots of universities have campuses set up in other countries. Well, Fudan is no ordinary university, and China is not your average country. And the amount of debt Hungary is incurring for this is eye-watering. The Fudan Budapest campus plans to accommodate 6,000 students and over 500 faculty members. I think a university that size has the whole of Europe in mind. Guess who is paying for the construction costs of the campus? Hungary. Those costs are estimated at 1.5 billion euro, which, by the way, is more than Hungary's public spending on its entire education system in 2019. 20% of the construction costs will be covered by the Hungarian government outright, while the remaining 80% will be financed through Chinese loans, which Hungary will have to pay back, principal plus interest. This is on top of the land for the project, which Hungarian government will be providing for free. In addition, the project will primarily use Chinese workers and Chinese products, a standard practice that China enforces on all of its projects under the Debt Road Initiative. The campus's proximity to the nation's political and financial center has raised major security concerns, not only for Hungary, but also for the EU and NATO. It has even prompted the National Security Committee of the Hungarian Parliament to inquire into the issue. These concerns will make more sense when you know a little more about who is doing the construction. The campus will be built by the China State Construction Engineering Corp, or CSCEC for short, the same company that built the headquarters of the African Union in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Guess what happened there? That building was thoroughly bugged before it was handed over. The French newspaper Le Monde reviewed this information in 2018. Because of its close ties to China's People's Liberation Army, CSCEC was blacklisted by the US Department of Defense last year. According to a report by an Australian think tank, the communist state is increasingly pushing Chinese companies abroad to install surveillance cameras in their premises. Just a few days ago, I did a video on how a popular Chinese restaurant chain with over 900 branches worldwide puts their customers under surveillance and sends all the data straight back to their headquarters in China. And there's no reason why it would not be done at the Fudan Budapest campus as well. Let's take a moment to understand what this implies. Everyone who visits the Budapest campus of Fudan University, students or teachers, researchers or guest speakers, might be monitored. With the passing of the extremely broad Chinese national security law for Hong Kong last year, any criticism of China, both at home and abroad, may be considered a crime. So any critical word they would utter about China on the Hungarian campus could be used against them if they visit Chinese territories. But worse yet, over time, China will be able to build up a center of influence in Europe. This brings me to my next point of concern. Fudan is one of the few Chinese universities that is of international standing, but it is also completely under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. I'd like to show you a video taken by a young student about Fudan's campus in Shanghai. You can see the 7-meter-high statue of Mao Zedong rising from a 5-meter plinth at the entrance to the university. Not much further on stands another statue which pays tribute to the man credited with translating the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx into Chinese in 1920. Don't you think these two statues already say quite a lot about Fudan? As if that weren't explicit enough, Fudan had its ordinances and statutes amended in 2019. References to traditional academic values such as independence and freedom of thought were dropped. They were replaced by statements about how teachers and students are obliged to follow the educational goals of the CCP and how they must respect its fundamental socialist values. According to the requirements of the Communist Party headquarters, party cells must be set up if you have 2 party members, and forming a subcommittee is required for 7 or more CCP members. There's little doubt that there will be more than a handful of CCP members active on the Budapest campus. How will the Hungarian government deal with these communist organizations in its own country? The CCP is known for suppressing academic freedom and freedom of expression. Will the study and research of topics critical of the CCP be allowed on campus? Will the students who are against the CCP be discriminated against by the university? Can you imagine that a university loyal to the Communist Party will one day be set up in Europe and allowed to educate young Europeans? So what is the Orban government thinking? Well, they were hoping by doing so, they will bring in more Chinese investments in research. But actually, they have incurred huge debts, and they may not have realized that undue Chinese influence will increase exponentially, creating problems in all kinds of ways, and not just within Hungary. With the size of this campus, China certainly has sights set on the wider Europe. If Fudan does succeed in building the Budapest affiliate, in a few short years, hundreds, if not thousands, of pro-Beijing European students will join European businesses, institutions, or even government offices after completing their studies at Fudan's Budapest campus. Soon, the potential vulnerability created will be beyond any government's reach. That's all for now on this topic. If you feel the content of this video is important, please share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.